Today's webinar is about drag and drop your way to assessment success. Understanding all of the 28 different technology enhanced question types that we have and which one will work best with your lesson. So what I'm planning to do today is to give you an overview of the different question type families, and then to review the question types in each family, and then go through a process to understand how to choose what question type family and question type to use based on your subject and your content, and then to transform some of your existing assessments into technology enhanced assessment. And then I'll do some examples. Finally, I'll do some examples for both math and ELA, and then we'll end with Q&A. Okay, so our question type families, we have several different types. There's traditional, word-based, number-based, grouping, labeling, graphing, and then this one in the corner here is a multi-part, so that uses a number of different question types. So what you want to do is you want to choose a family based on your answer type. So the main difference between these families is the way that you want the student to answer. So if you want the student to choose from some answers that were given, you can use a traditional type, which is like multiple choice. And those are really good for doing quick checks because they're easy to create and pretty easy to answer. So they don't give you, it's difficult in the traditional type question to get any granularity about what the student understands, but they are easy to create and easy for the student to answer, so good for quick checks. If you would like the student to answer in words, then we have several word-based questions, and those would be good for ELA or social studies. If you need the student to answer in numbers, then you want a number-based one, which is of course good for math. If you have an image or you want the student to work with an image or picture, then you can use one of the labeling types. And these are particularly good for science and geometry, and for younger students, maybe pre-readers. If you would like the student to answer in graphs, so draw a graph, plot points, that kind of thing, then we have 7 different graphing types of questions, which I'll cover in a minute, which are of course good for math and science. Finally, the answer into grouping or classifying. So if you would like the student to order or classify or group items, which is good for all different types of subjects, then you want to look in the grouping family. And finally, multi-part is where you want multiple different ways. This is the most difficult type to create and the most difficult type to answer. And so the performance tasks use these, where you might have part A, part B, part C, and it's just one question in your assessment. Okay, so the first type is, now I'm going to drill down on what question types are within each of these families and what the differences are. So the first type is the traditional type. And again, these kind of mimic the bubble sheet question types. This is what they look like. And we have 3 different kinds. There's true, false, multiple choice, and multiple selection. And you can see that they go from easier to harder. So true, false is the easiest for the student to understand. They get a 50-50. They can guess and get a 50-50 shot. Multiple choice is a little bit more difficult, and multiple selection is a little bit more difficult since you can have more than one answer. The second type is word-based. So if you want the student to answer in words, there's 3 constructed response types and 2 literary analysis types. So the 3 constructed response types you see here, this is basically fill in the blank with text. So you can fill in the blank with text, have a drop down with text, or essay type. The essay type must be graded by the teacher. And again, these are ranged from easier to harder. So a text drop down is easier than a text entry because the student has choices from the drop down, and in text entry the student has to come up with what the answer is. And then essay type is the most difficult since
hi, my name is Donna. I'm calling from
the student has to
my phone number is 201-446-8255.
the student has to, sorry about that, sorry about that interruption. The student has to write a whole essay. So then there's two literary analysis types. So these are for ELA primarily. The passage-based type has a passage on one side and different kinds of questions on the other side. And then the sentence response type has a passage where the student will highlight the answers. Now this, again, that type is also primarily for ELA, but you could use this as well for, say, identifying an error in a geometry proof, for example. So there's some other ways to use that question type. So the word-based are primarily for ELA and social studies. The number-based types are primarily for math and science. So on the numbers only, we have 3 numbers only types and 2 equation formula types. So in the numbers only type, this is a fill in the blank with a number. Edulastic will score mathematically equivalent answers correctly. So for example, 5 over 5 is the same as 1, and both of those will count in this type of question, which is called advanced numeric. And then in the equation formula types, the student gets to use the math editor. The 3 numbers only types where the student can type in only numbers are advanced numeric entry with units, which is just like advanced numeric, except for it has per foot, per minute, per mile. And in this type of a question, the teacher can require the student to not only answer the number part of the question, but also put the units in, so if it's feet or miles. And then closed matrix is a function type question where the student has to identify patterns with numbers. And again, these are ones where the student types in numbers. If you want the student to use the equation editor, you want to use one of the 2 equation types. Expression evaluator is just like advanced numeric, except that the student gets the equation editor in this type, and it's only numbers in this type. Similarly with closed formula. So our next type is labeling, the labeling family. So where you want the student to answer on a picture or a diagram. So you will have to upload the image or the diagram, but then the student can label the parts. And these are especially good for science, of course, geography like maps or landforms, as well as geometry. However, in ELA, you could have a story map where the student drops parts of quotes or words onto the story map. Another use. Again, the labeling types have increasing difficulty. So drag and drop is the easiest of the types. The student gets, in drag and drop, the student gets all the choices on the left and the image in the middle, and then has to choose which answer choice goes in which box. On label and image drop down, the student gets a drop down for each of the boxes, which is a little bit more challenging. And then on label and image text is the most challenging because the student has to come up with what goes in the box. On the graphing types, we have, so that on the graphing types, the student plots points on a graph, which is obviously for math. We have 7 different graphing types of questions, from line plot, which has tallies, to number line, graph plotter, where they can show ratios, number line, where the student plots points on the number line, graph placement, which is where the student plots points on a coordinate plane, a line graph, graphing, where students can draw a line, pictograph, which allows fractions, and the range plotter, which has inequality. After the graphing types, we have the grouping types, and this is where a lot of the some of the drag and drop ones come in. So that in the grouping type, the student has to either match or classify items. So this is good for social studies and science, as well as ELA and math. These are very flexible question types. They also go from easier to harder. So matching is where the student has two columns and drags and drops to match. Matching tables has a list of attributes and the student checks yes or no. Classification is where the student groups items into, say, factors of 24 and factors of 9, or nouns and verbs, groups things into classes. And resequence is where the student puts things in order. So, say, the plot of the story or the decimals from greatest to least. Okay, how do I start? So it seems a little bit overwhelming with all of those different question types. Though if you teach math or you teach ELA, there'll probably be a whole bunch of question types that you won't use very often, if ever. So the place to start is to think about what kind of content you have and then how difficult you want to make the exercise. So you might want to make the assessment less difficult if it's a pre-test, the students don't know the material very well, or if you don't have very much time, you just want it to be a warm-up or a seat work. Or you might want to make it more difficult if it's a comprehensive assessment of a unit that you've taught, or and you have a longer time for the students to work on it. So luckily, here's a graph that shows you that plots the ease of creating a question on the bottom with the difficulty level for the students. And luckily, up here in the top of this matrix, these are the ones that are more challenging for students. And there's a lot of those that are also easy to create. Certainly the traditional type, as I mentioned, is the easiest to create, but also the easiest for the student to do. And there's a lot that are easy for you to create that are a little bit more challenging, a little bit more rigorous for the student. Over here in the harder to create, labeling is a little bit harder to create because you have to have the images, and multi-part is harder to create because you have to really think through all the steps. But it's also the most rigorous for students. Okay, let's do some examples. Okay, so here's a math example. So the MBT standards on math, number-based 10. Again, I mentioned you want to start with what is my content. So I'm going to have some math content, and I want to show place value. And so the families to consider, so that limits significantly. I'm not going to do essay type. And so the families to consider are the number-based ones, the grouping, and the labeling ones. And say that I want my difficulty to be medium to hard. So my first question is, which expression is equal to the decimal 713.08? And here is my answer. So I'm trying to show the place value. So one way to do this question is to have a multiple choice question and put different numbers in the boxes. But another way to do it that'll be a little bit more challenging to the student is to do a fill in the blank or a constructed response advanced numeric one. So this is one of the number-based questions. I'm going to do an advanced numeric, and I'm going to say, copy and paste. Say, make this expression equal to this decimal. And then I'll put in all of my in here. And let's say I'm going to try to say something. I can make this really hard and require my students to fill in all of these numbers. So this is going to be 7. And then, see, I can have multiple, and in advanced numeric, I can have multiple boxes. That's going to be 1 times 10 plus . 8 3 times 1 plus the box 8 times 9. Okay, and then I don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and then I can preview as a student. So to make this expression, so I know this is going to be 7 times 100 plus 1 times 10 plus 3 times 1 plus 8 times 100. And actually, so now I noticed that I didn't put any tens, so I might want to change this question and go back and put in another, put in the tens place, which has a 0. Okay. So that's one way that I could take a multiple choice question and make it a little bit more rigorous for my students, for them to have to come up with what the answers are. In another example, we have, what is the greatest number that you can make with these digits, 4, 7, 8, 3, and 9, and write a number that's 10,000 more and explain how you got your answer. So this is a pretty rigorous kind of question. So one way, I could do a multiple choice. I could just, I could put 47, 389, 49, 837, and so on, and have the student choose. But in MBT, one of the fun things about MBT is you can use the drag and drop type questions, which makes this really fun. So I'm going to do a drag and drop type. I'm going to copy and paste. What's the greatest number you can make? And then I'm going to put in the numbers here, 4, 7, 8, 3, 9. So now I'm going to drop the numbers in the right order. 9 to be first, and then 8 is next. So this way the student can, can drag and drop, and as they're working on the problem, they can try out different answers and see which one is bigger. It's a good idea to try to make these boxes all the same size. Okay, and this one's for 3. And then, so as the student looks at this, that they can try different options and see which one is bigger or smaller. I don't like that one. Let's put 9 in the first box, and so on. Okay. Okay, so those are some math examples. I'm sorry, I forgot the write a number that's 10,000 more than the number that you made. So I can do another question, add another question, and that would probably be an advanced numeric. This next part would be an advanced numeric because I have to write a number. So it's one of the number types. A number that's 10,000 more than the number that you made. And so this will be a number that's 10,000 more. And then the last part of that question, which was a pretty rigorous question, was explain how you got your answer. And so you can use an essay type to explain how you got your answer. This is one of the ways that you can use the essay type in math. Or you can have you can allow the student to use the scratch pad on a previous question, and they will be able to show their work that way. Okay, a couple of ELA examples. So in grammar, for example, if I have ELA and I want to look at parts of speech or punctuation, so the families that I want to consider are the word-based problem, a grouping or labeling problem, and I want to have an easy or medium difficulty. So here's some examples. Which sentence has the correct punctuation? So here's a multiple choice question that I might have had on one of my paper-based tests that has different punctuations for after San Francisco. And so I could make a multiple choice question, or alternatively, I could just have the student fill in the blank. Now this is going to be a text-based question. So this will be a text-based question, text entry. And I can copy and paste from my Word document, fill in the correct punctuation in the sentence. And so one of the great things about Edulastic is that you can get these automatic grading. You can get automatic grading, and the student has to fill in the blank. So because this way, with this punctuation, instead of giving them 4 choices, they have every character on the keyboard to work with. And so that's going to be you see how it looks to the student. So they have to put the punctuation in there. Okay, so another ELA example is, which sentence has an adjective? And so here's a multiple choice question where the student looks at each of the sentences and figures out which one has an adjective. So instead of that, we could turn this into a highlight the text question just as easily. So we can change it to, I am not, because I'm just doing this for example purposes, I'm not putting them in the right standards. So I can use a sentence response question, and I enter my question text, highlight the adjectives in the following sentences, and then I want to put this in, move this down here to my edit text. So in this kind of question, you put the text here at the bottom. And then I highlight the text here. So I'm going to just choose some choices, and this is the correct answer. Athletic is the correct answer, and book is the correct answer. Okay, so I'm going to have some more choice. I'm going to put in some more choices for them to choose. Okay, so we're going to allow multiple correct answers. Okay. All right. So then when the student looks at this, highlight the adjective. So instead of just choosing the one sentence with the adjective, one sentence with an adjective, they have to look for all the adjectives. Okay. Okay. So I have one more example, and then we'll do some questions. Transferring multiple choice questions. So here is a great multiple choice question that has a graph. So Amy, Bart, and Candace each went on a whale watching trip. On the coordinate plane, X represents the number of hours they spent whale watching, and Y represents the number of whales seen. And so which statement is true? So this is a multiple choice question that you have to figure out which statement is true. But you could use a graphing question, a plot the points kind of question, to figure out graph placement, to figure out what have the students plot, just plot these points. So I'm going to copy my question up there, and then the points. I'm giving them some clues. All right, so I'm going to plot these points. So this is going to be Bart, and this is Amy, and this is Candace. So Bart saw 4 whales in 3 hours. Okay, so Bart, 4 whales in 3 hours is going to be here. And then it says Bart spent 1 hour longer watching than Amy and saw the same number of whales. This is going to be the same number of whales, but 1 hour less. And then Candace spent the same amount of time as Amy, but saw only half the whales. Whoops, there's these guys in the wrong place here. Bart is 4. Amy is here, and then Candace is 2. Okay, so these the graphing questions are a little bit harder to create, but it allows the student to to plot the points here. So this is a little bit more challenging than just a multiple choice question. Okay, so I do have a couple of resources, and after this we'll be posting the recorded webinar later today, and as well as the slides. And so we have a question type tour which shows every question type from the student's point of view. And then on YouTube, there's examples on how to create a lot of the question types. So I am ready to answer questions. All right, let me go over to a question. All right, so I have a question that says, are you going to create a how-to manual or directions-based type of questions? And the answer to that is yes. We are in the process of doing an online instruction on how to do every question type along with videos. For another question is, for the multi-part math question with the 3 different family types, how did you link the 3 parts together? I'm not sure what you mean by linking the parts together. I think Joy answered that question. If you could put in chat, that would be great, or do a Q&A. Oh, I think the math question that I did just had 3 different questions. The multi-part math one that I did had 3 different questions. You can do part A and part B. So you could have a fill in the blank for math for part A and then fill in the blank for part B. Let me just share my screen and show you how to do that really quick. Okay, so I'm going to go add a new question, and I'm going to add an advanced numeric question, which is the fill in the blank for math. And I can say, what, okay, so, what is the largest number you can create with these digits? 7, 3, and 1. Okay, so now the student has to fill in the question here, and it'll be 731 will be the answer. And then I can create a question that goes with that. What is 1,000 more? What is 1,000 more than your answer? And I can insert another box by looking at the text editor right here. And this could be 1731. That makes sense. So if you want these two boxes, if they're both fill in the blank number boxes, then you can just add as many boxes as you want to in the question, just by clicking more boxes here. If you have different types like drag and drop and fill in the blank, or multiple choice and fill in the blank, you can use a multi-part question, which is right here. You can use a multi-part question right here. Now, this question has not every widget available. These are the only widgets it has available for part A and part B. So what I did, because I wanted to use drag and drop, was I just created two different questions. I created a drag and drop question, and then the next question was a fill in the blank question. Okay, great. We have a question that says, can you embed video? And the answer to that is yes. When I can embed video on pretty much any question. So when you go to a question, let me just do a text entry, for example. What is the main theme of this video? And then down here in the text editor, you can click this, insert video, and you just input the embed code. So if you go over to YouTube and I'll get putty tricks. Do that. How to write a sonnet. Share, and then I get the embed code. And
what's my advice?
And then here's the embed code here. There we go. Well, this one you can embed. So normally there's an embed code here, and then you just copy and paste and put that right there. And press insert, and then your video will come up. So then Robin asked, is there a video, can you link a video with multiple text? And I think that what you mean is on the passage-based type. And the answer to that is yes. So if you go to the passage-based, which is right here, you can have various passages. So I can say, watch the video and read the article and answer the question, or write an essay about something. So this is the passage. I can copy and paste. So here's the passage, and then I can click another tab, and I can put the video here. Again, I can put, I could put two videos, and it works exactly the same. So here, I go to the video embed code. I get an embed code. Maybe this one. You can put it here. Here we go. Okay, so then you can embed this video. So all I did is I'm going to go to the embed link and copy the embed link, and then put it right here. And here I have my video. So now, save that. And so I can add various question types. So videos do not have to be from YouTube. They can be from any source where you have an embed code. If you do not have a embed code, so say you don't have permission, like there's some websites, National Geographic, for example, that don't allow it, then you can link Let me show you how to do that in a sec. So here is my passage, once upon a time, and here is my video, and then here is my question. And I can add more questions about this passage and video. These could also be 2 passages or 2 videos. If, I'm going to edit that one. If you don't have permission for this video, you could also, let me edit this question. So I'm going to add another one, and I could also put in a link instead. So I could say, you know, click on the link and watch the video, or read the news article or whatever, and then put in this link here. Insert link. Oh, I didn't put any text in. I can cause it to open a new tab. Okay, so then they can click on the link and read the video. Okay, Jessica asked, do all the questions have the same point value, or can it be changed? And the answer is that you can change the point value of the question. So I'm going to go to this one that I created earlier and click edit here, and I changed the points right here. So I can change it to whatever I want to. Now, in this question, if I have 4 boxes and it has 4 points, it will score them all each as 1 point. So right now, as this is scored as 1 point, when it comes back on your report, it'll say this is 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. So if I want to change this because it has 4 boxes to 4 points, that would probably be a good idea. Let's click save. Okay. All right, and now my question is with 4 points. Okay, great question. In addition to uploading videos, in any question, you can also upload an image. So if I add a question with multiple selection, I can, in this text editor, it allows me to upload a video through an embed code, or I can upload an image that is on my computer, or I can use a math editor. It also allows links and tables. So I can insert a table that has rows and columns. Just the same way that you would do in Word. So this text editor is really flexible. Okay, Paul asked, can I customize existing questions? And the answer to that is yes. So if, let me go and find a question from our community. So here's a question right here, an advanced numeric that's from the community. And let's say I want to make a similar one to this with different numbers. I can put duplicate, and then this question has now been duplicated, and so I can change it. So I'm going to change it to, okay, if A equals this, so let's say I want A equals to be, here's an expression. Okay, so if A equals 20, 4 plus 6, then I can add on to it, for example. Let's make this equal to 200. And that is how I would change that individually. Okay, Robin asked, are the questions saved individually or by the test? They are saved both individually and by the test. So if you'll see that this teacher that I'm logged in as, I can go and search for questions that I have created with this standard in the past. So these are questions that I have put in other tests. These are ones I just created today, right? Are the themes the same? Okay. Right. Great.